For over a decade now, something huge has been quietly happening in the background of global finance. While most of us were glued to price charts and all the crypto hype, governments and major institutions were literally rebuilding the foundations of the monetary system. Okay, let's get into this. Because all that quiet prep work, well, it just broke the surface in a really big way. So, what if the real story here isn't about getting rich quick? What if it's about a fundamental rewiring of how money itself moves across the globe? This breakdown is really for the active XRPL participants out there who get it, who understand that the true value is being built in the infrastructure, not just in the daily noise of the market. For so long, the whole conversation has been about speculation, right? All price hype, social media buzz, and that kind of Wild West trading. But today, we're shifting the focus to structure. We're talking about the real financial plumbing, the solid regulatory frameworks, and the institutional adoption that is absolutely setting the stage for what comes next. And that brings us to the first major piece of that structure. Look, this isn't just another headline. This is a landmark decision from the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, and it involves an exchange called Bitnomial. And believe me, it has quietly changed everything. So here's the bottom line. For the very first time, a federally regulated U.S. exchange has been given the green light to use XRP as margin collateral. What that actually means is that big institutions can now use their XRP holdings as a security deposit to back their trades. This is the first time a digital asset has officially crossed that line from being just a speculative thing into a regulated piece of America's financial plumbing. To really get why this is such a huge deal, we have to look at how things used to work. See, most crypto derivatives were cash settled. Just think of it like a synthetic mirror. Institutions could bet on the price of an asset, but they never actually had to own it, touch it, or move it. It was all basically a numbers game on a spreadsheet. Bitnomial is completely different. They offer what's called physically settled futures. This means when a contract ends, the institutions have to source, hold, and deliver the real asset. We're talking actual XRP. This creates real structural demand for the asset itself, totally separate from all the retail hype. This is just a massive development. As one source put it, this is the gateway being unlocked. This is the same standard applied to gold, FX, treasuries, and LME metals. You don't get included unless you're considered settlement capable and institutional grade. So yeah, XRP is now officially playing in that league. All right, let's zoom out a bit, because this Bitnomial news didn't just happen in a vacuum. It's actually part of a much bigger, coordinated shift to rewire the entire U.S. financial system. And it involves some of the heaviest hitters you can imagine. What we're seeing is this incredible alignment between agencies. You've got the CFTC formally approving XRP as collateral. Then you have the SEC, which very pointedly did not object. And trust me, that silence is deafening. And at the exact same time, the DTCC is making a huge push to modernize settlement. They are all rowing in the same direction. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the DTCC is the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. To put it simply, they are the absolute structural backbone of the U.S. financial system. They are the official record keeper for a mind-boggling amount of assets. Just how mind-boggling? The DTCC has said on record that they have the technical power to tokenize $100 trillion worth of assets in a matter of seconds. That's the scale we are dealing with here. The potential is, well, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. So, why is all this happening right now? Well, the entire system is pushing towards something called T+0, which is just a fancy way of saying real-time instant settlement. And here's the problem they're facing. You cannot run a modern 24/7 financial system on collateral that still takes 2 days to clear. It just doesn't work. You need digital, instant, liquid collateral. You need assets like XRP. And this brings us to Ripple. They haven't been just waiting for this future to show up. They've been methodically building the on-ramps for it for years. They've been constructing a complete end-to-end system for institutions to actually operate in this new tokenized world. Let's just walk through the pieces they've put in place. For custody, they acquired Palisade Wallet. For treasury management, they bought G-Treasury, which lets CFOs manage digital cash. For settlement and risk, they acquired Hidden Road. And for regulated access, they invested in platforms like Bitstamp and, you guessed it, Bitnomial. They've built the whole closed-loop system. This was no accident. In fact, Ripple was an early strategic investor in Bitnomial, and their CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, sits on the board of directors. This was a multi-year chess game, played with some serious strategic foresight, all to build the rails for this exact moment. Okay, so we've seen this massive institutional plumbing being laid down, but what does any of this mean for you? How do you go from just being a spectator to becoming an active participant in this new era?
The institutions are only now getting the tools they need for real delivery and real custody. So the question is, while they're playing catch-up, how can you get ahead of the curve and become a truly literate participant in this ecosystem right now?
Well, the answer really lies in a fundamental shift in mindset. It means moving away from being just a passive holder on some exchange and moving towards active, hands-on participation. It's about learning by doing. And this is exactly where platforms like XRP Tip Team come into play. See, this new era rewards people who are focused on mastering self-custody and actually using the XRPL. Instead of just hoping for a price pump, the smart participants are accumulating by teaching others, creating these incredible infinite tip streams that build value through education and growing the network. So let's just compare the two approaches. The old way, holding on an exchange and just waiting. The new way, with a platform like XRP Tip Team, is all about accumulation. The core principle is mastering self-custody. The tool members use is the Xaman Wallet. It's perfect for truly controlling your assets and handling all the transactions. And the action? It's teaching others, creating a network effect that benefits everyone involved. And don't think for a second that this change is decades away. As former SEC Chair Paul Atkins put it, all U.S. markets will be on-chain within a couple of years, not 10. The urgency to become an active, literate participant is very, very real. We are seeing this powerful convergence of forces. Right now, the regulatory clarity and the infrastructure are being locked in. The president of the NYSE is already forecasting a surge of IPOs starting in early 2026. So what happens when that wave of new market activity meets this brand new high-speed plumbing? The potential for explosive usage is just undeniable. So, if you're ready to move beyond just passively holding, and you want to learn how to accumulate XRP through education, active participation, and by mastering self-custody, the community at XRP Tip Team is building for this exact future. You can learn more over at xrptipteam.com.